Welcome to JTS. Today we are going to go over our Comp 1 air compressor. This is our PCP compressor. Everything is built into this single unit, and in this video we're going to go over how to operate it and troubleshooting for various issues that may occur in the field and how to resolve them. Here we have the Comp 1 hooked up to 110 volt US current line. If you live overseas, under this plug is a switch on the inverter where you can go from 115, 110 over to 220. That's for overseas customers who live in Europe. The unit is all self-contained. It has the inverter and everything built into it. It does not have any oil or grease. It is a completely maintenance-free unit. There is almost nothing to do with this maintenance-wise. So let's go over some of the features. As we said, the inverter is built inside the unit. On the front, we can switch from DC 12 volt or to AC. As you can hear it power up now. On the side, if we switch it to DC 12 volt, we'll use the 12 volt leads on a car battery. And on AC, we're going to use our plug-in into the wall. This is the bleed screw. You only need to crack it. You never want to take it off. Underneath this is a ball bearing that can fall out and be lost. So be cautious when removing this if you think you need to remove it for some reason. On the top is our dial, and this is what we use to set the pressure. This has auto stop. It comes with a deadhead plug, so you can test the unit to make sure it's working if you're having some kind of fill issue. On the back, there are two cooling fan ducts, one on the bottom. That is to cool the internal pump, which we'll go over, and one inside again, and that cools the cylinder head. Also, this pipe here is an exhaust pipe, and we'll go over that too. That's part of the internal cooling system. On the top is a very large pancake fan, and that is for cooling the cylinder head itself. This pump has a long run time because we have designed it to cool very efficiently, and it turns over at about half the speed as our competitors' pumps, so it's running RPM wise about half that of our competitors. That allows us to have longer intervals between rebuilds, and also lowers the temperature of the unit while we're running it. Okay, we're going to go over operating this in the AC voltage. To do that, we simply switch this from off in the middle over to AC. That'll turn on the power to the board and everything, and you'll hear the fan turn on. It'll get a little bit loud because we're in a very small room, and we'll go over this simply by placing the deadhead in the whip that comes with this unit. We're going to set our pressure to 1500 psi and run it, and it should run up and stop itself. So we'll do this test real quick. This is the start and stop button and the bleed. So with the deadhead in and the bleed closed, we will power it up and start it and run it up to 1500 psi for our test. Now we can turn it off, and it should be holding pressure there. If it's not, if this needle starts bleeding down rapidly, then I'll show you in our maintenance section of this video at the end of this video how to fix that. But right now, we'll just grab the bleeder and we'll open it up. The air will bleed out this tube here at the bottom on the left-hand side while facing it. That is also where the water will come out of the unit if there is water in the system, which will happen almost certainly while using it. There is a water separator inside this unit. It's built inside, and that should strip off quite a bit of the water as the air is being compressed, and that water will come out this tube. So be aware. I wouldn't put this on top of anything fabric wise or that you care about, because some oil and water can come out of that, and the oil is just for break-in lube for the machine from the factory. Okay, so that basically goes over how to operate the machine in 120 volt. Here is the fill whip. We simply untie it. There's a banjo bolt right here. There's the deadhead that comes with the unit. And this is the part that you'll hook to your gun. You simply pull this back, hook it onto the Foster fitting, and let go, and make sure it's on real tight. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and hook this up to a gun and do a top off. Okay, we're going to run our Comp 1 compressor and top off this Aracuda Standard. We have the fill whip in hand with the deadhead removed. We simply pull back on the tension ring, hook it to the Foster fitting, and then we're gonna go ahead and top this thing up. So let's do that now. There we are, we're hooked on, and we wanna make sure it's on, and the ring is fully seated, which it is. We'll set the compressor to our max fill pressure, which is 3000 PSI, which we've done now. We'll switch it to AC power because we're running it off of the 110 volt line. If we were running off a car battery, we'd switch it to DC 12 volt and use our whip on the side. So let's go ahead and top this gun off. Make sure the bleed valve is closed. We're connected. Power on, pressure is set, and run. Okay, we've turned it off. Our pressure has been reached. The needle is staying put. We're going to go ahead and bleed the line. Remember, any oil or water will come out this line. Go ahead and close this back again. Remove the Foster off the gun. Put your cap back on. Okay, so it's very simple to use the compressor. You just set your pressure to your maximum fill pressure, whatever that may be for the gun you're using. Hook up the Foster, make sure the bleeder's closed, and run it. And that's the same process you use whether it's in AC or DC mode using the whips on the side again. Okay, so we're gonna go into some of the features of this unit and why it's different than others. So hold on and we'll be right back. Okay, so I've taken the screws out of the top and slid the top over so we can see the inside of the compressor. This is our Jts Comp 1 compressor. Here is the inverter. This is the switch on the top to go from 110 or 220, 230 volt for our overseas customers. So the circuit board that controls the pump, this is the pump itself. Here's the cooling fan that cools the cylinder head. Here's the cooling fan that cools the cylinder itself. And then this fan is the internal cooling fan, and this is the exhaust pipe from the cylinder wall. One of our features, and what allows us to run this for extended periods of time, is actually this cooling fan and this exhaust pipe. Is something that's not on any other compressor in the market. The fan actually blows through the case and out the exhaust pipe, cooling the inside of the pump. All other pumps only have external fans cooling just the outside of the pump. And because we're cooling the inside of the pump and the outside of the pump, it allows us to have extended run times, and it prevents early maintenance also, because we're running a lot cooler and we're not wearing out parts as fast. So we're going to go ahead and pull this out of the way. This is our high-speed fan. I'll go ahead and set it up here. There we go. So let me get a seat. And this right here is the piston sleeve for the high pressure piston. And back there is the crank shaft that has a sealed roller bearing on it. That's why there's no oil leaking out of this, because there's no oil in this unit. This right here, this exhaust pipe, Loctite it in, good. If we look in it, we can actually see the piston itself, because the piston's in the down position right now. If the piston was up, we looked in there, it would be an open hole. So the cooling fan blows in, cools the high-speed piston cylinder sleeve, and the piston is pumping up and down, so it has some pumping action. The air goes in, goes up into the cylinder, up under the piston and the fan both blow the air out the exhaust pipe. It's a very unique feature in only our compressor, and it cools the high pressure cylinder sleeve, also the underside of the piston and the cases themselves. Up on top of the unit, we come over here, we can see right here, this big block has orifices in it, and this is our water stripper. So the piston's going to pump the pressure in through the bottom of the pump, up around this coil, cooling it down. And then that coil will go into this water separator. So once everything's cooled and goes into here, the water droplets will condense inside of this separator, and then when we open the bleed screw, that moisture comes out this tube at the bottom here. So it's a very unique system, and something we designed here in the USA. All right, now we'll go over some of the maintenance items. One of those maintenance items that we're going to be going over right now is the filter. It is basically a tampon style filter for the intake. So here it is. These can be cleaned, they can be blown out with compressed air or replaced if needed. It's a very simple filter design. This is the intake for the compressor. That is our maintenance item number 1. Here we have our second maintenance item. Inside of the female Foster, down in the bottom, is an O-ring. These O-rings can wear out over time, And if you hook this to the gun and you feel air puffing around your Foster fitting, then more than likely that O-ring will need to be replaced. And it's a pretty common O-ring. All the sizes of our products can be found online at jtsairguns.com. The third maintenance item, and this is if you have an overfill situation or it just wears out, the burst disc. The burst disc is underneath this fitting. You simply unscrew it, and on the when you pull the fitting out, the burst disc is on the opposite side of that. I'll show you that now. Okay, we have removed the plug. And there is where the high pressure air comes into and then goes down the fill whip. Right there on top of that plug, that silver thing with the dimple in it, is the burst disc. And if it pops, then the unit will no longer be able to build pressure and the burst disc will need to be replaced. So if that's the issue, just go ahead and replace that burst disc. You'll feel the air coming out around the holes if it does pop. Okay, the last maintenance item is on the very bottom of the compressor underneath here. If you're filling up a gun or a small tank or whatever you're filling up and the needle climbs or doesn't climb or climbs and jumps up and down, or when you're filling it up and you stop and it bleeds down quickly, then more than likely the bleed back valve or check valve, as some will call it, is dirty and it needs to be cleaned. And to do that, we simply turn this compressor on its back or side, whatever's convenient for you. And right here is the plug, big brass plug. In the kit that comes with the compressor is this tool. You simply put it on top of here, put a screwdriver through those holes and twist it loose. And then go ahead and take it all the way out. Here we have it all the way out. That is that plug on the bottom. Underneath it is a spring and a plunger. And these all go together like this, up inside this cavity. Now, because this is on the very bottom of the compressor, all the moisture, debris, dirt, break-in material will end up down here. And if you're having an issue with your pump where it will not pump up, then 90% of the time this valve is dirty. So you need to pull it out, clean the inside of this nut, pull the spring out, clean the spring off, pull the plunger out, clean the head of the plunger, take a Q-tip and then go ahead and clean all that out and then put it back together. And this will go first, then the spring will go on top of it, and then the nut will screw it all in place like this up inside the pump. And then go ahead and test run it again with your dead head in it and see if it's building pressure and holding pressure. Sometimes it might require doing this a couple times if it has a lot of moisture built up in it. All right, people, thank you very much for visiting us here at JTS, and thank you so much for purchasing our products, and God bless you all and stay safe.